1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
It's the 10 Cut Commandments. What?
What's up, world? I'm your boss, Kamal Nuru, a.k.a. Zoe Mega Millions. You're tuned in to Barber World TV. My special guest tonight is Mike James from Frederick Benjamin Grooming. How you doing, Mike?
All right. Doing well now.
This is a little bit of a different episode because Mike is, he's not a barber, but he's in the field of grooming, and which I think this could be an important episode for barbers and people out there working on their own product line. So tell us where you're from, Mike.
So originally from Columbia, South Carolina, but I mean at this point, home is New York City.
Dope.
Yeah.
So tell us, what's your background and products, and tell us how you got started in the industry.
Yeah, so I kind of slipped up into the industry. I went to, came up in the business world, went to business school.
Stay close to it.
Yeah, and then after B school, found myself working at Revlon.
Revlon.
Right.
How you get a job at Revlon? How do you roll into that?
Hey, man. So to be honest with you, man, it was, I had the opportunity. So again, I went to business school.
Right.
Wanted to do marketing, and I wanted to market a tangible product.
Right.
I needed to hold something.
Right.
And did an internship at Colgate-Palmolive, marketing Murphy's Oil Soap, Ajax, and the like.
The old school.
Right, exactly.
You young guys might not even be familiar with those brands.
Exactly. So I spent the summer marketing that, and then went back. And so when I knew I wanted to come back to New York.
Mm-hmm. Where did that happen? The Colgate-Palmolive.
Where? And here in New York.
Okay. It was
Yeah.
York. Okay.
Yep. Down on Park Avenue. And so that was my first real taste of brand management. You know what I mean? Product development, product management, promotions, pricing, all that good stuff. Product extensions. But it was only a summer. And that's what, when you go to business school between the first and second year, you find somewhere to park yourself for the summer.
Right.
And get some real world experience.
Right.
So I did that, knew I wanted to get back to New York. But when I got back, I had the opportunity of going back, marketing household cleansers, or I got an offer marketing cosmetics. And something about cosmetics just seemed a lot better. So
a little more appeal to it.
Yeah, a little bit more appeal to it.
Right.
So that's how I
Around what year was this?
This was 2000.
In 2000.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So I'm aging myself.
Yeah. You still young.
I appreciate
it. Not like you said in the 80s or something like
that.
that.
No. This is 2000.
Right.
So I spent about 4 years at Revlon. I started marketing Mitchum Deodorant, Almay Deodorant, and this dollar brand called High and Dry.
Oh, I still use Mitchum to this day.
Is that right?
Yeah.
It hadn't burned your armpits yet?
No. It's the one deodorant that I can use because most of the other deodorants irritate me. So
is that right? Okay.
The Mitchum Roll-On actually works for me.
Roll-On, exactly.
Yeah.
So that's a dated function, but Mitchum, they're so effective you can skip a day.
That's what they say. Yeah.
That's the tagline.
I wouldn't do that though.
No, don't skip a day. But it's got the highest amount of efficacy on the market. That's why I'm asking, because for some it burns.
Oh, really?
For me, it was.
I found the other ones to burn.
I mean, I was like,
what is efficacy?
So I mean, just the effectiveness of the product.
Okay.
Right. Okay. It's been a while. Forget the name of the active ingredient.
Okay.
But it's basically.
Efficacy is the effectiveness.
The effectiveness of the product.
Right. Okay.
And so you can change the level of efficacy by the level of active ingredient that you place in a formulation.
Okay.
So that's some industry talk.
Yeah. Well,
that's industry talk for all the guys who are looking to get into product development.
So how much did you learn on the job compared to what you learned in college? Like, did they teach you all over? Did you have to learn something all over? Were you able to apply most of what you learned in college?
So, I mean, it was all pretty much on the job training when it came to the products themselves.
Okay.
Sitting down with chemists, sitting down with packaging, understanding if a certain chemical didn't interact with a certain type of plastic or glass or didn't interact. Some chemicals just don't interact with other chemicals.
Right.
And so if you look at a bottle and you see like a black and tan at the bar,
Right.
when it's split, those are chemicals that are not interacting, and so they separate.
Separate, right.
So all that was on the job training. I mean, there was, the math, the writing, the presentation skills that, I kind of cut my teeth during school.
Right.
But it was all on the job.
So what was the difference between going with Colgate to Revlon?
So the marketing approach.
Okay.
Marketing dish liquid and marketing cosmetics, two different approach, right?
Okay.
Marketing lifestyle, marketing a finished look, marketing beauty. It's much different than just marketing, wood cleaner.
Cleaner, right.
So it was just, but it was more than that, though, right? I mean, cosmetics, and then I eventually got into hair, moves by the season.
Okay.
Different colors, different look, therefore different appeal.
Okay.
Right? And so that always newness, the fact that you always have to have something new, fresh, and different was much more exciting than cleanser, which, I mean, the Murphy's Oil soap and the Ajax, they haven't changed that formula in years. Yeah. So they'll give you, during the summer, they'll give you a 25% bonus pack.
Okay.
But it's the same formula, bigger bottle.
Right.
So that was the difference in the appeal for me.
Okay. You were always doing something new. Was that it? Like doing something new?
Always doing something new, always creating new products. But then there was something about bringing that product to life, whether you matched a shade with a certain shade, or it was just always something new. I mean, and fashion and cosmetics kind of always moved in lockstep.
Right.
So again, each quarter, so there was never a dull moment. You're always producing new products, new campaigns, and that was the exciting
What were some of the products that you worked on?
So Revlon Color,
particular
So Color Stay, the foundation, like I said, the deodorants.
Right.
I developed this thing. It was a failure, but it was a water-based solid. We put it in the market, but major corporations also make mistakes. This thing just shrunk. So you put it in this nice container, but after it moving through the system and reaching to the shelf, what we found it was losing water.
Okay.
So you open the cap and the formula just shrunk to half full.
Okay.
And so you discontinue and take it off the shelf. But I spent about 4 years at Revlon. Then I went to L'Oreal. And that's when I kind of fell in love with the hair game. L'Oreal at that time had just bought Soft Sheen and Carson.
Products that us blacks or African Americans use.
That's right. At that point, they were moving a lot of relaxers. But they bought those two companies, and they were still based out of Chicago, and they had this little brand called Mazzani.
Are they still around?
Mazzani's still around.
Familiar.
Yeah, okay. Definitely still around. But it was a professionals-only brand in this consumer system, right? And so about a year or so after the purchase, Revlon said, hey, look, we've got an entire professional products division in New York. We should move this brand, because it's getting lost in this consumer environment, move it to New York in the professional division to explore some of the resources, and they staffed up the brand, and that's when I moved from Revlon into Mazzani.
Mazzani. So when you say professional brand, do you mean that they were targeted for the professionals only?
Professionals only.
Okay,
yeah.
A regular consumer couldn't.
That's
get
right.
this.
So
Okay.
normally, in this category, from a corporate standpoint, well, at least from a L'Oreal standpoint, they divide it up into professional, which is strictly stylist, consumer, which you can find in Walmart, Target,
Was this
CVS.
under the same names or the ones that were consumer? Was the
Different
names
brands.
Different
Yeah,
brands?
different brands. Then they had department store,
Okay.
those brands that you find in department store, and then like an active. So somewhat professional, but for skin, right?
Okay.
For dermatologists and those type of med spas. So they had, definitely different, lines of demarcation when it comes to developing marketing products.
Right. So what role did you play in it? Did you actually sit with the chemists and design the packaging and
All of that.
Now,
So
how does that go?
Yeah, I mean, so it's discipline is called brand management, right? And so you're basically managing a brand, everything from the profit and loss statement or the P&L to strategy, right? So for me, it was, when we had the brand, it was small, so we had to like quickly increase the sales, right? So you're looking at the marketplace, what the brand does well, what the brand does not do well, what categories can the brand expand in, and then developing the business plan for that.
Right.
Now, in a corporate world, you can develop a business plan, but then you got to sell it up, right? So doing all the math, doing all the profitability, presenting the idea to senior management, getting the okay, and then you manage cross-functionally, meaning I then take that idea and I sit with a chemist
Okay.
and say, hey, I got this idea, this concept. I want to, be able to relax and color in the same day. Or we want a natural type of color system, or whatever the case may be. And I'm making stuff up.
So you come up with the idea.
You come up with the idea, you sit with the chemist,
and they produce.
and then you go back and forth. Well, you can do this, but you may not be able to, because you can't color and relax in the same two chemicals on the head,
Right.
So, so that process could take anywhere from 6 to 18 months. So you're constantly managing the new development, but also managing the day-to-day.
Right.
Because you've got to deliver on new products, but you also have to deliver on the ongoing business.
Right.
And whatever you said you're going to deliver to the company from a top line and a bottom line, you got to manage all that. So,
Okay.
so it was jack of all trades, master of none. But we like to say we sit at the center, and then we kind of manage the spokes. So we've had packaging guys, we had chemists, we had a creative department, we had a team of stylists who came in to help us.
A focus group kind of thing.
Yeah, not exactly.
Okay.
And they were very much a part of the new product development.
So you actually went out there into the field and got some professionals to give you feedback and tell you what's good and what's wrong and what you can
No,
change.
for sure. And before we even got to the field, though, we had a professional team.
How do you build that team? Like where do you, like, do you go into a salon or do you find someone that's high profile stylist or something like that?
Yeah, so we definitely found high profile stylists in New York City. We had them all over, but from a product development standpoint, it was local. Because L'Oreal, we had our own salon, right? And so we would bring them in, we'd bring the models in, and then myself and the chemists, the team would be there.
Right.
And so we would use the products to spec, to concept,
Right.
right? So if this is what we wanted to do, let's look at it. Let's see how it performs. Everybody's in there taking notes. The chemist is in there taking notes. The stylist is in there taking notes as well. And then we just go iteration by iteration until we get to a good point. Because at the end of the day, especially for the professional division, it's the education is key, especially if it's a chemical. Right? The shampoos, we can pop those out in our sleep. Mm-hmm. The chemical is where the money is, but also where the technical expertise is. And so we looked for folks that had potential to invest in, and then just help us through the process. Because, I mean, as you know, when you go to the shows, you can't just put anybody on stage.
Yeah.
Right? So you've got to have presence. You got to be articulate. You gotta
have skill.
You gotta have skill, exactly. More importantly, you gotta have skill.
Yeah.
And so that's you're looking for a particular type, and we used to fly them in, we used to have them local, all the above.
And what shows would L'Oreal be in and produce for the new product?
Yeah, so it was funny. When I was there, we would I think we did Bronner, and we did some of the bigger shows in the Javits Center, IBS, those types of shows. But it got to the point where we were doing kind of our own shows. Okay. You know what I mean? So, you got this pot of money, and it's like, we can go to a floor and be one amongst many.
Right.
Or we can kind of control our environment. So our model at the time was to take that pool of money and work with the distributors. So we had distributors in every major market. Uh-huh. We'd work with them, and we'd get a hotel room, conference room. We'd lay plastic over the floor, set up the tables. We'd have things like this. Right. What do you call these? Whatever these things are.
A mic on, boom, mic on.
The mic arm. Yeah. But with that, we would put our
model. Mannequin.
Mannequins.
I understand. Yeah.
On the boom, and
right.
What do you call the boom?
Not for the mannequins. It's just part of the mannequin stand.
Yeah, but it was kind of like
similar.
Sure. Exactly.
Some clip on the table and some stand on
the. At the end of the day, so that was our show.
Okay.
Right.
So y'all moved out of
out of the big shows.
Start doing your own. Right. Now is this show private?
It was
only like how.
No, well, we sold. So the distributor sold tickets.
I understand.
It killed a lot of birds, and it was more efficient with the cash, right?
Right.
Because especially with new products, education is key.
Right.
And so, not only education is one, you want to get the distributor to buy in big. Mm-hmm. So.
Are you educating the distributors, or are you educating
we're educating the distributors' customers, who are the stylists.
Okay, all right.
But we leaned on the distributors to fill the room out.
Of course.
Right? So, but that was a part of the show, right? It's like, okay, you write me a great order. We bring a show to your market.
Understand.
You buy, and so they win because they sell tickets. We give them education, and they will write business right after the show.
Right.
And again, when it comes to chemicals, whether it be relaxers at that time, color, or texturizers, those are items that women would come to the shop regularly.
Right.
And so it's a replenishable item. And you don't swap out shampoos swap out chemicals like you do a shampoo or a styler.
Right.
Because you educate it. And so it was in everybody's best interest along the vertical to buy in. And so we would go to, we would do this.
How many markets would you say?
We were in all the top markets. New York, we had, was it Main Street or somebody in New Rochelle? Tyrone in New Jersey, Independent Beauty Supply. Right. We had Atlanta Market, LA. They're all over.
So how does that work when you produce a product for the industry and it works, what does that look like? And what does it look like when it doesn't work? And how often is that? Does it usually work? Or, is it 50-50?
Yeah, I mean, you can have a bang out launch that works maybe one every 7 launches.
Really? Okay. I'm glad I asked that.
Yeah, the other ones could just be good, steady money makers.
Right.
So, normally you launch with a full line, especially in the women's sector. It could be 7, 13 products. Half of those SKUs may last a couple years.
Right.
So you just kind of wean down the line just to a core.
Mm-hmm.
But again, that's why new products is so, you gotta, to be in this, new products is everything.
Now, when you say new products, are you truly creating new products, or are you creating a new name and a line with similarities? Or are you really, the next product is really bringing something different?
It could be a whole host of scenarios, right? So you can bring real technology out, but again, that's once every couple of years. Or you can just add your spin to an existing trend,
Right.
and that needs to be more frequently. So it's balancing. I mean, new technology though costs money because, with L'Oreal, you had innovating chemists who spent time developing 5-10 years out, and then you just had the bang 'em out chemists who would just I need this, with just a couple different iterations.
Right. My niece is a chemist, and she
Okay.
works for a cosmetic company. I don't know the name, but I think I'm going to have her on the show.
You should have her on the show. Yeah.
She has some insight.
Yeah, no, for sure. Chemistry is, I was never good at chemistry, never interested in chemistry.
Right.
And I don't think I know a lot about chemistry, but have had enough conversations to get the gist, if you will.
Right.
Yeah.
So how long, the last company you said was L'Oreal?
Right.
So how long were you with L'Oreal?
So I was with L'Oreal for 4 years.
4 years.
Yeah, I worked on Mazzani for 2, and then I moved up to a brand called Biolage.
And about around what time, what year was this? When you
I left around 09.
09.
Yeah.
Okay.
09 or so.
So we got a idea of your background and your experience and
Right.
knowledge.
Yeah.
At what point do you decide to do your own product line? Why? And was Frederick Benjamin your first launch?
Yeah, so it was so over the course of those years, I've always thought about, one, I went to business school because I wanted to be an entrepreneur.
Right.
And so if I want to be an entrepreneur, I should go to business school.
Right.
So that was easy, right?
Yeah.
I didn't know what it was going to be, but I just know I needed to get that education.
Right.
Then I got into this personal care beauty world, and I'm like, I like this because I like the people,
Right.
especially the stylist and the barber. I love the passion
Right.
of, so I was like, I like this category. And so I, stuck around and tried my hand at, cosmetic line. I was working with I was doing some work with a makeup artist.
Okay.
That just never panned out, but I did all the math for it and was like, okay, wow, this could work.
Right.
And had some other ideas about products for women.
Okay.
But then, I got to L'Oreal and I, just a light bulb went off because I noticed that 2 things. One, I've always used products,
Right.
hair care, shaving, the likes, but there was nothing that I really liked.
Right.
And that just came out of the bottle. Now I can mix and match.
Right.
I mean, I had access to some of the best ingredients,
Right.
or best formulas, I should say.
Right.
And so I would get a little bit of this and a little bit of that to, a little cream and a little gel.
Uh-huh.
and mash it up, and I had, you know, the look that I wanted.
Right.
And so, so that got a little frustrating. And then the fact that all these products were, you know, drying out my hair or, you know, razor bump, whatever the case may be. And so, you know, I'm like, all right, this could be it. I've got all the, you know, the knowledge.
The light bulb went off.
The light bulb went off.
Right.
You know, here I am making great products for women, ethnic women, as well as general market.
Right.
And at the same time, waking up every morning with, you know, concocting, you know, self-concocting, if you will.
Right.
The light bulb went off. And then I started studying the market, especially for, you know, for men.
And what did you do to study the market?
First and foremost, man, walk the aisles. Okay. So when I go into and my family will tell you this, when we walk into a store, especially like a Target, and my wife and kids are on a mission. I have 2 girls. So their mission is somewhat different than mine.
Right.
When they can't find me, they kind of know where to find me after a while.
Right.
And I'm, you know, walking the aisles and seeing what's out there. Mm-hmm. So one was that, right? Going through the aisles and just looking at all the products that I grew up on. Right. You know, cutting my mom's stockings, tying the knot with the do-rag. Make the do-rag, and the Daks and the Murrays. Right. They were on the bottom shelf. Okay. And I graduated from the grease.
Right.
You know what I mean? Right. And so that in and of itself was like, something ain't right here.
Right.
Then, just from a business case perspective, you know, doing like the positioning map, mapping products and mapping brands based on price point, based on consumer type, based on any number of things that you can put on an X and Y axis.
Okay.
And when I did that, they were all, you know, the mapping was all clunked into 3 quadrants.
Okay.
Right? And those quadrants were, so my axis was basically price point and target consumer.
Okay.
General market versus multi-ethnic, premium versus value. Mm-hmm. And so if you do that, the X, there was a ton of value brands, right? So you've got Murray's, Daks, Sporting Waves. You can help me name some more.
They're all the same thing, pretty much.
All the same. They occupied that bottom right quadrant.
Right.
With, you know, and they were packed in there.
Right.
On the other end, why now?
Right.
So now you got on one side ethnic, on the other side general market, and below that value line, Old Spice, Pert, Head and Shoulders, the list goes on and on.
Right.
All right. So those are 2 crowded markets, very low price point. You got to be pushing millions of units to make money.
Right. Okay.
All right. So that's part of the calculus. The other side, though, is on the top left side, and this is when the categories start waking up, is, you know, our brands that are more premium, the formulations are more graduated, and they're targeting, you know, a more sophisticated consumer base, right? So you got the Baxters of the world, Art of Shaving, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
And so, having looked at that left this quadrant wide open.
Right.
And so that's what I was looking at. I mean, other people got to the same conclusion, maybe the same way or a different way. Mm-hmm. But as I got in, I mean, Exotics did the same calculus.
Right.
He saw it.
Right.
Then you have Bevel and all these other brands who see the same opportunity.
Pacino.
Pacinos, exactly. And And so that, I mean, I kind of, you know, I looked at it from a need base and knowing that I can't be the only one going through the same struggle, but then had the skill set to do it from an, you know, an academic exercise.
Right.
And I kind of paired the two.
Kind of like what Mixed Chicks did. There was nothing in that market at that time.
Zero. That's
for,
right.
For the ethnic in between style.
That texture. Yeah.
Texture.
And then, you know, the Mixed Chicks, the Miss Jessies,
Yeah.
the Shea Moistures of the world, they start marketing, and we look at it the same way as well. It's like, and I don't want to speak for them, but I'm guessing is like you're marketing to a type versus a race.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I understand that. Yeah.
To texture.
Right.
And for me, it's a skin type because right now we're going for the same texture of hair.
Right.
As long as you have a curl pattern, normally there's an issue with moisture.
Yeah.
Dry scalp.
Right.
Just because of the way in which your hair grows.
And you would say the formulas too are not particularly made for that texture.
The formulas are not made for that texture. That's right. And they were made. So a couple things. One, they're not made for the texture. Two, they're made to hit a price point.
Okay.
So what I learned was alcohol is a very extremely inexpensive ingredient.
Yeah. And that's one of the main things that will dry out your hair.
And that's the main thing, in addition to a lot of things.
Right.
But it's the main thing that would dry out your hair, in addition to fragrance. But because the liquid, the fact that it's liquid and the fact that it's cheap, you've got 60, 70% alcohol in a product. It's going to dry your hair out.
Right.
And the bad thing is, if in fact you are trying to solve for dry, itchy scalp, and you go use these products, right, then you are doing yourself a disservice.
Right.
And so what I found, that guys were like washing their hair more because they were trying to get rid of it, just exacerbating the issue.
Yeah, and people also confuse dandruff with dry scalp.
All the time.
The total opposite.
Total
of the
opposite.
spectrum.
That's right. One, you need an active ingredient. Mm-hmm. Two, you need to lay off the alcohol.
Right.
So I tell a lot of folks when I tell people that, they kind of give me that sideways, and I equate that to hanging out with your boys at night.
Information and education.
That's right. So you go out and you drinking vodka and Henny and whatever all night. You wake up in the morning and you're dehydrated.
Yes.
Because that alcohol did a number on you. Right? Same thing with the scalp. The alcohol is going to pull all the moisture, all the hydration out your scalp.
Right.
And so that was that was key, and that was the first issue that we saw for.
Mm-hmm. So tell us about the name, where the name come from.
So the name is actually, the brand is named after my grandfather, and that's kind of where I gained inspiration. Okay. His name is Frederick Benjamin Schumpert.
Okay.
He too was an entrepreneur. He too started his business. He started his business in 30.
I got some Shumperts in my family.
Do you? Oh, we must be cousins. From South Carolina? I'm sure everybody in New York is either somewhere came up the Eastern Seaboard.
Someone close to the family and the family has the Schumpert.
That's what's up. So we're doing our family tree, and I need to share that with you because I'm sure there's a linkage. But he was in the turpentine business.
Okay.
And then he started a lumber business.
Okay.
This was all circa 1930, late 30s. Started his business in the Great Depression or just after.
Mm-hmm. So was it about?
And I started mine in the Great Depression. So
the second,
exactly.
So was it about his entrepreneurship, or was it something about his style, or was it a combination?
It was a combination.
Okay.
It was definitely my first visual to entrepreneurship. And, being able to see the creation of a business.
Right.
And it was a pretty extensive operation. We talk about vertical integration in business school. He was vertically integrated back then in terms of how he produced lumber. I could watch the trucks. As a young kid, I'd watch the logging trucks come in with pine trees with the bark still on it, right? And then they would take it all the way to the back. He had like 20 acres in Columbia, South Carolina. And they'd take it back. I'd watch the process of them stripping the bark to the bare tree, treating it, and then turning that tree trunk into finished product, whether it be a 2x4 or a 2x6, whatever the case may be. Yeah. And then, so that exposure was powerful to me. And I used to go, my mom would pick me up from school, and because she worked with him as well. He actually also brought my dad on as well.
Family business.
Very much a family business. But I get picked up from school, go to the lumberyard around the time where the whistle blows. Cats were still bringing lunch pails, carpooling. They had overalls and hard hats and gloves.
Right. Real blue collar.
Real blue collar. But he hired his own.
Right.
I guess that was part of the time, so that it may not be all that impressive. But one thing that really stuck out to me is like he would come out at the end of the day with like the hand stack full of white envelopes. And at times he'd let me he'd call the names, or let me call the names, or let me actually hand the envelopes out.
Yeah.
That was, that was powerful.
Yeah.
And
even indirectly, it was a lot.
It was a lot. I think we talked about this upstairs. It was, it's about exposure. Right. Just being exposed to that gives one little small individual the power of thinking that it can be done.
No question.
So I kind of always had that. But then also I would say for a while, my family lived with our grandparents. Okay. Much like, I think we all kind of have that experience.
Yeah.
And so, I watched them shave, I watched them groom, and it was the old school.
Right.
And so all of that. But in addition to that, it's Frederick Benjamin to me is more about that time when men were like well groomed.
Right.
They didn't walk out the house without a suit on,
Suit,
without
hat,
the fedora,
jacket,
without my granddad always had a cigar in his mouth.
Right.
And so they went to the barber, they got the last. And so there was a sense of pride about the way one carries himself, and I think that came out in the appearance.
Right.
And so it's kind of, as I was going through the name, because that's the story, but also to make sure that was it. I had a whole list of names.
Right.
You know what I mean? I went through names or just kind of arbitrary stuff.
Right.
But it always came back to that. So that's the inspiration.
Right. So what was your first product that you launched under that brand, that name, and when?
So I try to approach products and launches systematically. Okay. Meaning, if you're trying to solve dry scalp, I can't help you with just one product.
Right.
It's a system. I got to change the entire way you groom, right? I got to change the way you cleanse. I got to change the way you condition, and I need to change the way your daily maintenance. Right. And so the first launch in the brand was a hair care system. We call it a regimen.
Right.
And so it's a shampoo, conditioner, and the daily hydrator, which is essentially a styling cream. It's like a leave-in conditioner with a little bit of styling property.
Which is good because I think there definitely wasn't something in the market. I know when you brought it, I thought it was great because, you know, I learned even with when we were blowing out the hair or whatever, like you need to hydrate the hair if you're going to put heat on it, you know, because you'll dry it out. So your product was perfect because it wasn't oily, but it also conditioned and, you know, it treated the hair without a buildup.
Yeah.
You know, and I think a lot of those old products, it was such a thick buildup of grease, and people don't understand. Like you can't barely even cut through.
Yeah,
all
you
of that
can't get through
buildup.
grease. Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, and that's the approach, right? That was the frustration, and that was kind of why I knew this is something that I had to do because I hated the grease. That's what moved me to general market brands.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so, again, you know, you sit with a chemist and you say, hey, look, I want the same hold, the same shine as a Murray and Dax, what I'm used to, but without the petroleum,
Right.
without the mineral oil. And they scratch. And so, I mean, it's like, so that's the thing. It's like we do not launch products with petroleum,
Right.
with mineral oil. We don't launch products with drying alcohols. Now, not all alcohols are drying. Some fatty alcohols have great benefit. But there is a drying alcohol. There are synthetic fragrances that also cause irritation to the scalp. We use natural oils to provide that sensorial pleasure.
Now, the products that you use, that you put in, the chemicals or what have you, you having the education, you know what to go to the chemist and ask for. From your experience, right? So did that also lead you to have, I guess, contacts with chemists that you could work on your formula?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I was lucky enough to walk out of L'Oreal and still have contacts that most of them had actually left as well.
Okay.
And so either they could work on it or they could push me to someone that could.
Right.
And so, I mean, if you're thinking about launching a product, I mean, you've got to really understand in order to make a good product, because you can always take somebody's product from a a chemist,
Right.
put a fragrance in it, put your own label, and do well.
Yeah, there's a lot of that going on.
There's a lot of that going on, and I'm not knocking it. Sometimes
got
I wish
some
I
people-
did that.
Some people making their product in the garage too. You know.
And listen, I tell people all the time to continue doing that for as long as possible.
Okay.
Once you start biting off production runs and going into fulfillment centers, the headaches get a lot worse.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
So-
but as long as you can stay small and nimble and cut out that cost, do it. Because at that point, you can write handwritten notes. That's what I used. I mean, when I was fulfilling out of my, my home, my apartment, I would, one, I'd be so happy that I got an order. Two, I write a note, and the reviews were like, yo, not only is the product good, there was a level of customization. I mean, they
feel like
love
know
that
you.
note.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'd see messages on Facebook. Wow, it was a great touch.
Right.
So, the kitchen chemist, man, that's where it starts.
Yeah, yeah. So how long did it take for you to get the formula you were looking for?
It took, So with the first set of products, it took me 6 to 9 months. And a business school mate of mine who was in the soft drink company. Same line, I mean, same kind of trail in that left business school, went to work for Coke, and was like, I'm gonna start my own soft drink.
Right.
So he kept calling me, was like, yo, did you launch yet? Did you launch yet? And I'm like, nah, man, I had to send it back, you know? And he was like, look, man, you could do that till the cows come home. Just go, you know, let the last one be your last and launch. So I had to do that. Now I can keep tinkering till the cows come home. So that one took about 6 to 9 months. But I will also say, though, that if I can make it better, I will. My pomade, which I think is perfect now, almost perfect now, the existing formula is probably the 4th iteration.
Okay.
And so, and I have to remind myself of the Steve Jobs model. Because you know every time an Apple comes out with some new stuff, do you really want to buy the first edition?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But they don't wait. They put it out, and they let the consumers
Say what's wrong.
give you feedback. And so that's the kind of philosophy that it took me a while. But that's the philosophy, right? And so that's what I tell a lot of folks. It's like, get it to a good point and put it out there. Because you can go 10, 15 iterations, put it in the market, and the customers will tell you something that you didn't even think about.
Yeah.
So now you're back in the lab.
Right. So what year did it launch? Did you launch your first 3 product? What year was that?
That was pretty soon after 2010.
About 2010.
Yeah, I'm getting old, bro.
Time flies.
Time flies. So not too long after I left L'Oreal.
Okay. And then how long before you added to it, and how many parts of your line do you have now?
So it took me a year or so to add to it.
Is that strategic?
It wasn't strategic.
Okay.
That was just my means. You know, I bootstrapped this thing.
Right. Okay.
And so I learned a lot of hard lessons, and I'm still learning hard lessons. Like taking on too much inventory at the beginning. I knew I had a good formula. I knew I was ready to go. But I took on a lot of inventory. Not only did I take on the regular size inventory, I also put a lot of money in sampling.
Right, which is kind of necessary.
It's necessary.
Yeah, initially.
But it left little money for marketing, right?
Right.
And so
I remember the little small.
You remember the little small, yeah. So
love that. People love those when
to
they're
all
able
the
to walk out
Barber
there with
World
us.
TV listeners, right here is my first customer. I remember walking in, man. I was like, all right, let me go pitch. Come on. But so, you know, I took all that. I put that. Can you curse on this show?
Yeah.
Put that shit on a truck.
Yeah.
Met it in New York at my warehouse in Long Island City. Pallets.
Wow.
Took that shit upstairs, put it in, and a couple of weeks later, I was like,
I had to move all this.
Crickets. You know what I mean? So I was like, okay, so now I have to make some phone calls to distributors. Because again, you know, so a part of me, and I tell this a lot of people, I feel like on one half, my industry experience was a blessing.
Yeah.
Right? Because I was able to do what I needed to do in a fast clip. On the other end, I feel like my industry experience is a curse. In that I know how it's supposed to be done at a certain level, but when it comes to like doing it as a startup,
Mom and pop style.
yeah. totally two different things. Because I was calling distributors like, hey, you know, we used to do business. Remember me? They're like, oh, what you got? You know, all right, come see me at least. I can, you know, you put some money in my pocket, so I at least give you some time of day. But then
Right.
it was like, I need to see some traction before I invest in this inventory.
Right.
So it was like, all right, I had to load up the car and come see folks like yourself.
Right. And was that your first way of entering into the industry by going shop to shop?
Yeah. But it wasn't, so going shop to shop wasn't out of the ordinary for me because at L'Oreal, again, I was in the professional products division. So I could talk stylists. I could talk to barbers. I could talk to chemistry. I could talk hair. Right? So it was, and I'm used to walking into shops because we used to do ride-alongs with what we call DSCs. I'd fly to Texas, get into a sales guy's car, and we spent all day in the salon. So that was natural to me. But because I didn't do it for a living, it was hard work. And so managing the rejections and, you know, celebrating the highs and not getting too low when it's low. I mean, I used to have a strategy. It got to the point where I was like, okay, I'm going to take my rejections up front and save the ones that I really need in the back end of the day, right? So I would look at it as I need to see a certain amount of chairs. I need to see a shampoo bowl. I need to see a certain ambiance. Stylish shop.
You were looking for a mid to upscale shop.
That's right. That I knew would at least hear me out. Then I knew there were those shops that they were just like, dog.
And like, kind of like with some companies, Nike, certain things, like you can't even order unless your store looks a certain way. Right. And then you have to order a certain amount of units.
Certain amount of units. Exactly. I eventually got to that point, but I just needed somebody to sell something, too. And so yeah, I mean, but I'm not a natural sales guy, right? So I used to go to the shops that I knew were going to say no, and just go in there and try to sell the hell out of it. Waiting for the no. But more importantly, listening to the objections. My clients ain't gonna buy this. It's too expensive. Guys don't use product. Man, I heard it all.
Yeah.
And I used to take a mental note of all that shit. And mentally write down my rebuttal. Because then, when I went into the levels of the world, or, you know, those shops that I knew had the clientele, knew were in the right neighborhoods, and knew were more than likely were, you know, wetting some hair, I'd already heard it because they would come with the same sort of objections. And so I had it, and I was like, okay, well, I mean, I know the business. But also it was like there was a level of respect that I kind of knew what I was talking about, and I wasn't just coming from outside of the industry trying to get in.
So what did you do after you went door to door? Like, how did your marketing change from going door to door? How did you get your product out there?
Well, so I started with the barbers. So you can get the barbers, as you know, door to door, trade shows, or other barbers. So that was kind of how we, you know, how we worked it. And I drive up and down 95. DC is, you know, kind of my best market.
Why do you think that's your best market?
DC?
Besides the sales, but do you think it's a different type of culture there?
I think that culturally, I'm not sure it's the culture. I think it's like in DC, because government is there and there are no ups. I mean, there are ups and downs with government, but pretty much everyone stays employed. Because everyone stays employed, because I mean, government's the biggest employer.
Right.
You have to stay well groomed.
Yes.
So guys were more frequent with their grooming, and because they had consistent jobs, they had a little bit more scratch in their pocket.
Right.
And so the barbers, I think, as a result, were able to elevate their game and have a client base that could pay a bit more for the service. And I think they appreciated it more. New York is a funny market.
Yeah, because you have the ups and the downs in New York. And
Right.
Which is weird because you might have the most shops in New York, but the variations in those shops, it's
Very
like
lively.
Yeah.
Well, so the thing is, I've got friends who work on Wall Street, corporate lawyers, but they don't want all the glitz and glam.
Mm-hmm.
They just want a $15 haircut, and they bang it out.
Mm-hmm.
Now, but they wear the Gucci loafers. They go to they get the tailored suits.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes, so I'll be honest with you, I'm still trying to figure this market out.
Yeah, I could imagine.
I'm still trying to figure this market out from a shop to shop point of view.
Yeah, because even as a shop owner,
I
found it difficult
Uh-huh.
to move the product. It's still challenging to. Do you have some customers that love the product and some customers that really don't use the product?
Right.
And it could vary like that inside a shop.
Right.
It's
within one chair. One client is on, one client is off. One client,
and I think it's still under development. African American black male grooming in its total, it's still under development.
Yeah.
I think we're like a segment of the market that's still not all the way buying in to the additions.
Yeah. So that's good. I mean, because I'd love to hear your insight on this. Because again, I'm trying to figure it out. And I agree, we're not all the way bought in
Right.
with the grooming. Yet we are 110, 150% with appearance.
Yes.
So we will spend
Yeah.
on everything. But when it comes to like grooming,
We'll still get a $15 haircut.
we'll still get a $15 haircut. You know what I mean? Or we just don't, we're afraid, or there's some hang up to being able to slow down and lean back in the chair and get a shampoo service or a hot lather shave and actually experience.
You know what my thoughts are?
Yeah.
I think we still don't understand the importance.
But is that a New York thing?
I don't know what it is. I still see that as a challenging area when I try to introduce it. Now, some people you use it on, they like it, they'll buy it. But there's some people that just feels like that's not where their money needs to be spent.
Well, let me ask you this. How does it, I mean, what's the, how do your clients take price increases when it comes to just the service?
Well, we've gone up recently, right? It was 20 for a long time. Now it's 25, and I don't see a big backlash with that.
No
I didn't.
backlash.
It's just, for example, we've tried. There's a shampoo girl, right? She works in the shop. I tell all the barbers, everyone give them $5 at the end. It's 10 shifts. Everybody gives
Every
shampoo girl-
barber.
Every barber gives a shampoo girl $5 or $10, whatever they agreed upon, right? Now the clients would turn down the shampoo, although it's free. It's not costing them anything, but they're so not used to that additional service. So if it's challenging to get them to the shampoo bowl, which we explain, your hair's going to be clean, free of oils. It's going to make the haircut crisper. We'll be able to cut your hair quicker because we don't have to mold through the grease. And that's a challenge for them to just accept that free service from a pretty girl.
It's free.
Right. So imagine when it's hard to get them to get a free shampoo, to use the product on them.
Right.
Introduce them to the product.
Right.
So if it's challenging to get them into the shampoo bowl, then the other part is going to be challenging.
Absolutely. Well, so yeah, no question. I mean, even so in my sales process, especially for the barbershops, I see the shops that are wetting hair, moving product.
Of course, you get a chance to use the product because if you're going to shampoo the hair, one, you're going to use the shampoo, you're going to use the conditioner, and then you're going to use the hydrator. So you get to do the whole process and introduce them to this line. And if we can't get to the shampoo bowl, get them to the shampoo bowl. It's like,
Yeah.
now we still could sell the hydrator.
Yeah, but it
a
makes it
little bit.
harder. So it's let the products speak for themselves. And so, I mean, to your point though, I was on 125th Street with a team, pretty girls, trying to hand out free samples. And the brothers wouldn't, I mean, it was like they were like I had two heads. They wouldn't take a free sample. I'm not asking you to use it now. I'm not asking you.
They think it's a catch.
Yeah, well, they think
Everybody's
sold to.
Everybody's selling
Right.
in New York.
Right.
And they think if I stop to take this sample, then they're going to try to sell me something.
That could be it, though.
That's what it is.
It's the selling.
Yeah.
And so, yet again, I think that was a part of the education for me. Because I found early on that I found myself not only selling products, but selling education. And it wasn't the techniques of a cut, because I can't teach that anyway.
Right.
But it was like the economics of, the incremental revenue opportunity of retailing or shampooing. I could tell them, look, man, I got a 32-ounce bottle of shampoo. You buying it selling it to you for what, $20?
Right.
And if you charge $5 for a shampoo service, shit, I mean, the bottle pays for itself in an hour. So everything after that is an extra $5.
See, that's why we jumped over that and just tried to give them the shampoo.
No, I know.
So
I know.
imagine
No, I
trying
get it,
to
yeah.
sell them the shampoo.
I know.
knew that was a dead end.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So we try to give them the shampoo, and even that's challenging.
So on the shop, the nice shop that was on 116th Street.
So on 15th Street? Which one? Or Lexington Avenue?
No, so it wasn't your shop.
Okay.
It was the other shop.
Oh, Braxton's.
Yes.
Braxton's, okay.
What I mean,
You would expect to get a shampoo there.
you would expect to get a shampoo there.
Yeah.
I guess that was before its time. I guess I was going to, I guess the question was, I mean, what's your take on why that didn't work?
I think, and I never got a service in there, but I think their price point was high early, and the relationship between a barber and his client is not built on the glitz and the glam.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because there's guys that might work on Wall Street and they might get their hair cut in a hole in the wall.
Well, that's
So the relationship is between the barber and his client,
Right.
no matter where he is.
Right.
You got to realize in our community, it's not super cuts and fast clips and all this stuff. That's my dad's shop.
Right.
My dad brought me there since I was a kid. And you might end up going to the barber next to the barber that your dad goes to.
But it's going to be close.
You stay,
Yeah,
you know, and
yeah.
we're of the culture of following your barber wherever he goes. You build this relationship and rapport. So it's I think the time and energy of education needs to go towards the barber.
Mm-hmm.
Because he has the relationship with your customer.
Right.
So if you can convince the barber that this is to be beneficial for him, if you convince that barber, then I think that's the best way in.
Mm-hmm.
It's about the barber at this point.
First and foremost, yeah.
Initially.
That's right.
And not the client.
That's right.
Not the
the
consumer.
ambiance or because so that was the thing. It was like at the beginning, to your point. I mean, I went in because I was in awe. I was like, oh, okay, wow, this is great.
Right.
I overcame the price point because I'm like, okay, I'm expecting it. I at least want to try it out.
Right.
So they got me on the ambiance. They got me in there with the drink while I wait.
Right.
Got a haircut. It was like,
The other thing.
now I got to go back to my other guy.
The other problem there
And-
was their barbers were on commission. The best barbers are not going to work on commission over rent unless they can see the benefit.
So that's
So-
math that I'm trying to
Right.
figure.
So they didn't
explain that
necessarily
to
have
me.
the best talent there.
Right.
It's like a beautiful, fancy restaurant. Now, your chef might be from anywhere, but if he can cook, he can cook.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So with a beautiful restaurant with terrible food, it just ain't gonna work. You know what I mean? And you're not going to attract the best talent unless you really make them feel that there's a benefit for them to cut in this space than another shop down the block where they can rent a chair.
And just the money-making opportunity, right?
Yeah.
And so booth rent versus commission.
Right. And I think, she went to booth rent, but it was
Okay.
just, maybe that didn't work for
It was too late.
what she had. You know, maybe her bills was, her overhead was too much to rent a chair. I don't know. You know what I mean? But I think she also should have targeted a different
Demographic.
right.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's interesting, man. I mean, I to your point earlier, it's still a brand new market.
Right.
And so, a lot of guys or a lot of consumers that we're trying to source with any product line, you're fighting against guys who've just never either used products or, to your point, never see the value of it.
Right.
And so not only are you overcoming the newness of the category, but you've got to overcome just a daily practice. Like, I'm good with this soap and this water.
Right. And guys you ask the average guy, what do you wash your hair with? Whatever my wife buys. Whatever shampoo and conditioner is in the house that my wife uses, that's what I'm going to use.
Yeah, that's right. But I will say that, again, to your earlier point, once you have them, guys are very loyal.
Yeah.
That's what I like about the men's category.
Yeah, we're not going to go fishing around for
We ain't got time for all that. Yeah. And so, that's what we see with our customers too. They just, the ones that come. So our repeat is high. Our issue is we need more customers.
The growth.
Yeah, we need people. We have no awareness.
So tell people how, where, and how they can get the product.
Yeah, so you can find us at shopfrederickbenjamin.com. You can find us at ulta.com. And there's also a list of barbershops and beauty salons on the site where you could potentially pick us up in your local market.
Right. How do they get in contact with you, per se?
You can come to the site. I mean, I wish I could say I had a huge team, but if you fill out that contact form, I will answer. I will say that there was a young lady the other day who emailed me randomly. She was in Los Angeles looking to start a product line, reached out and said, hey, look, I'm looking for a mentor. Would you this, that, and the other? And I had one of the best conversations with her the other day. And so I try to do what I can to share my knowledge in the category. I know what I know, and I know what I don't know.
What about your Instagram, social media?
Social media, we are at Frederick FB Grooming on Instagram, Frederick Benjamin on Facebook. Find us on YouTube. Hit the hashtag FredBGrooming or Frederick Benjamin. Let us know you're out there. If you got the products, show us your products on the hashtag. Yeah, and if you're looking to upgrade to a natural regimen and approach, I think we are definitely the brand for you to choose. We've got hair care. We've got an outstanding water-based pomade called Sleek Water. And we also have a whole shaving platform where we have a pre-shave, a shave gel, and a clinically proven aftershave. I didn't get to tell you about that. So not only do we spend money in technology, but we also spent the extra dollars putting it through a 60-person clinical trial.
Wow.
And we've got a 2-week claim to reduce and eliminate razor bumps.
Nice. The one thing you would say to anyone entering this space in the market, starting their own product line, what advice would you give them?
Think big, start small.
All right.
And don't be afraid of being small.
Cool. All right, brother. Thank you for your time.
Oh, man, I appreciate it. I had fun. Forgot we were recording, man. This is a good chop up, man.
Good. All right. You're watching Barber World TV.
Barber World TV, I appreciate it.
Peace.
I've been cutting these heads for years. It made me a master. There's rules to this shit to get money faster. A cut by cut booklet for you to get your game on track. Not your lines pushed back. Rule number uno.